Hello out there. The road here. Earlier today, I was um, refreshing some of my camouflage that I have set up around my camp. And I'm looking around the area. I always keep my eye out for fresh new camping sites, stealth camping sites. And here's one that I've had my eye on for a while. And as you can see, it works within the natural environment. And this is the type of place that's really good to keep an eye out for. Look at it in here. I spent I'd say about an hour cutting root systems and pulling out, branches and getting things out of the way, smoothing out the ground a little bit and cleaning out the environment and kind of trimming some of these limbs that definitely were crisscrossing all over and in my way, in order to kind of make a nicer environment where I could just come in here at any time if I needed to, and I could set up a tarp and I could get out of the weather, or I could stay here. This is a place where I could probably actually stay for a week or two or a month maybe. It's kind of on an empty lot, and those are the good kind of places. Nobody's too attached to them. And this is the kind of place that I look out for. As you can see, I got two areas that I have, two options I cleared out for a stealth camp. This option doesn't have much headroom, but it's still an option. And I could always cut that branch out of the way. And this is my basic book bag that I carry around with me at all times as I stealth camp. My big backpack, I always, is stashed away at, hidden away at stealth camp. But when I'm moving around town and stuff, I carry my book bag, and this is one of the things I carry in it. A little saw, and that's what I did all this work with. See that? Like these roots. I got out some pretty gnarly root systems too. Like, look at that big ass thing. It was pretty hard. I had to really muscle that out. That was a good workout. The only thing that I'm not so fond of here is it might not show up on the screen, but it's got a slight slope. But once you get these places set up, what I would start doing next, what I'm probably going to start doing next, is making sure that I got 2 or 3 or 4 gallons of water somewhere within easy reach of this little spot. And I'll have some canned food somewhere in easy reach. And I'll always have with me a small tarp and, the saw and some rope and things like that. So it'd be already prepared. Now, if I was gonna make this a go, and I was gonna stay here in stealth camp for a while, you see these little open areas here, not fully clear. I mean, kind of clear, or not fully camouflaged. What I would do is go out to the woods in the area, because this is a woodsy area, and I would start cutting pine boughs. And when you cut pine boughs, you want to be a little strategic to where, potentially a landowner might come and say, who's been cutting here, and this and that, And like I say, you're doing it with this saw. I recommend getting a folding saw at the garden section of either Home Depot or Walmart or whatever kind of a store you may have in your area, a department store of some kind. If you go to the camping section, I noticed that the saws have a tendency to fall apart easier. And if you get them at the gardening section, they seem to be a little tougher, and they seem to more durable, and they seem to last longer. That's just my advice, and that's what I've noticed, because I've gone through a lot of saws in my life. Okay, so what I would start doing is using that saw, I'd go out into the woods and then I would start finding trees and I would strategically start cutting pine boughs and various other um, trees, limbs that had nice foliage that I could kind of strategically stagger right up through here. Like I could, look at this, it's like a perfect frame that I could just start staggering, you know, branches here with foliage and some pine boughs mixed in. And then I could put my tent right here. You see, right across this section here. And I would strategically put these camouflage limbs all around the area. Like right there, that's a little too open for my comfort. So I would definitely start filling that in. And that's what I do at most all of my campsites, especially if I'm going to be there for more than a day or two. A day or two, that's on the fly, that's different. But when I'm going to really camp out for a while, I start really making this place, I shape this place up. And I always keep it within the contours of the natural environment and stuff. And it's always worked for me pretty good. So this is a good little location, a good little spot. And I just thought, since I am journaling, like video journaling or video diary, my stealth camp experience and stealth camp adventure 2025, especially as I'm getting older, I don't know how many more of these adventures I could really pull, through, how many more years can I do this? I'm not sure. But anyways, like this here, because it has a slight slope, it would be very uncomfortable to sleep on. So what I would do is I would start staggering getting a bedding of like spruce pine. And when you cut those spruce pine, you want the ends that are cut on the outside, and you want the more fluffy part on the inside. You kind of go outside to in, and then you build up a nice bed. And what I would do, since this is lower down here than up here, I would have less pine bough up here, like maybe 2 or 3 inches. And down here, I'd have about 8 or 10 inches of pine bough. And then if I could manage to do it, it's like a half a mile walk to the nearest place where I could get some cardboard. But I'd probably do a cardboard run, and then I would lay a piece of cardboard down on the bedding of pine boughs that was strategically designed to make up for the one part lower difference than the upper part here, because this has got a slope, and I'd make up, it's not too much of a slope to make up for, so that could work. If I didn't do that, it would be really hard to deal with. But that's about it. Any other the other advice that I have, if you're ever looking for stealth camp locations, or if you're not, I'm just going to give my experience and kind of like what I do, is I make sure that a place like this has got an easy access in and an easy, way out without being noticed by traffic, you know. So nearby in these stealth camp areas, usually there's traffic, and you're kind of camping under the radar in the outskirts of town, you know. I usually don't go in towns, and the areas that I frequent are always small country, rural towns, rural areas, or sometimes, the on ramps that are wooded, and you got those out and back kind of on ramps where they go way out and around, and they got all that wooded area on the between the freeway and the on ramp. Sometimes I go to those places and camp out. But also, you gotta have that easy come and easy go access where you can kind of appear, disappear, reappear, and because you're gonna have to. You can't stay at stealth camp forever. You've got to go out and get water. You got to go out and go to the bathroom. You've got to go out and cut more pine boughs occasionally if you're gonna stay for a long time. To refresh your camouflage, because that stuff dies and starts flaking off, and the leaves on the branches that you drag in and put up as camouflage, they kind of wilt and dry, and you got to replace and refresh that stuff, once a week or something. Um, and then you got to go get water and stuff all the time. You're always getting water, and you got to bring it back to camp. And sometimes you just got to get some fresh air and some open space, just to be a part of it all, so you ain't hunkered down like some prisoner in, you know, solitary confinement in camp. And that's why you got to have easy access in, and you got to have that ability to leave without being seen. So these are, you know, tips that I, you know, always look out for. And this is sort of an empty lot kind of space, and it's kind of in between a couple of places that nobody would notice me, you know, going in. And the highway is around here. It's just it's such a way to where they don't really notice me when I'm even getting 400 yards from this place. Then I can just kind of boop dip into the woods, and there's a easy sort of path for me to take, and then end up here. And then I could leave the same way, and I can come and go pretty much without too much of a risk of being noticed. And that's what I really like about this spot. And of course, the natural environment. You know, some places you got to always take into account what time of the year it is, because if you're in country, small communities like rural communities, you got hunting season, you know, so you got to take that into account. Another thing you got to watch out for is cameras, because, you know, landowners are getting, you know, really litigious, and they can be pretty ugly. And for sometimes it's for good reason, but, you know, some people like me, we definitely don't deserve to be, you know, come at full force by the law or anything like that. You know, I don't think I'm doing any harm, and, you know, out of sight, out of mind. And I never leave a bunch of trash laying around. You know, when I go back to, I got a few cans built up, for instance, like right now, and and they're kind of hidden away somewhere. They're all cleaned out and everything. And when I go back into town next time, I'm going to put them in a grocery bag and take them with me. So yeah, I never trash the place. And the only thing I've done is just move a few things out of the way, and cut out a few roots. And whoever really owns this property certainly has never used this, you know. So I'm not doing no harm. I'm not going deep into his property. I'm just off of the road a little bit, and I'm in kind of an empty lot kind of situation. So I always look for the empty lot situations. I try to intrude as little as possible on society, and I always understand that society has priority over me. So I always keep that in mind, and I always keep everything clean and nice. And my motives are always pure. I just am trying to, you know, find my way in life and hang on until, you know, until the end, until I take my last breath, you know. And I try to grow as a person and become a better version of myself along the way. Maybe someday I'll have the merit to maybe pass a little light on to somebody else who might not, I don't know, who could appreciate something that I'd have to pass on to them or something like that. I don't have any awful motives or anything. I really enjoy living like this. I wish I could find a home. You know, I'm certainly hoping that that happens someday. But one thing I won't do, and I just can't do, is go through all the difficulty that it takes to accumulate the wealth, you know, in order to buy a home or to set yourself up with a, you know, nice piece of property. I mean, gosh, I don't know. That to me is too much. So I try to keep myself as healthy as possible. I keep myself, you know, I don't know, on this path that I'm on, and I'm just praying every day that God is merciful toward me. And I understand that society has priority over me. And I don't think I'm anything, and I'm no factor in all of this. In the big picture, in the big scheme of things, society will do just fine without me. Yeah. Well, anyways, I just wanted to drop this as a video diary to leave on my YouTube channel for the future. And I didn't want to pass up the opportunity. I didn't want to miss this opportunity. So I'm just saying hi, and it's just kind of a future diary to myself. And yeah, let me see. The only other tip that I have is like right here is an example. You see how these look freshly cut? There we go. So what I'll do is I'll go down into the dirt, and then I'll take some dirt and I'll smudge it. So whenever I cut a branch, in the woods for whatever purpose, whether it's at stealth camp like it is here, or else if I'm going to cut some pine boughs for, let's say, for camouflage around a stealth camp, you know, some distance away, then I'll do this technique. I'll always, because then it makes it look like it's, you know, been cut a long time ago. You know, I don't want to tip people off that I've been on their property recently. All right, with that said, you know, from the adventures of Noah Road, stealth camping 2025, I guess I'm going to let y'all go, and so I can save battery power, and I don't know, I'm just on my way to going to do something else now. Over and out for now, and thanks for watching, all of you, and I hope you all have a great summer and all that. Bye-bye.